Greetings, Patrick here. A question Swift. Have cheetah in a box. Welcome to the show. We are starting off another week. Um, we had just a absolutely awesome week last week. The best week of the show so far. By far, just incredible interview, incredible guests, incredible audience, incredible engagement. Um, this is how it's supposed to be, right? I hope it is like this for a while. Um, hey, Jaden, how are you? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Stick around for a while, Jaden. Yeah, stick around. I want to, I want to see you. I want to see you here in about, or come back in about 15 minutes or so. Come back and stick around. I want you to be able to ask a question of our guests. I'm sure you have some questions. Greeting, Paul and Nadia. Nada, how are you? I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. We will be talking with film director and screenwriter Andrew Jara, and he will be here in about 15 minutes. We will be talking about his career. We talked to him once about that, but we're going to also be talking to him about his new movie, The Empty Space, and we'll be talking to him about that in about 15 minutes or so. Definitely want to say again, thank you for everybody who's has come out the last week or so. Absolutely been awesome. Oh, now we got Facebook coming on in. All right. No problem. Okay, that no problem, Samantha. No problem. The replay is still here. Thank you so much. Congratulations on getting your rep. That's awesome as well. Seems like everybody's having a good summer. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I can't say enough for the participation last week. So much fun. We had John Christ and Jerry Montano in. We also had the awesome Yui Bo was in on Sunday, along with a really fine actress. Amina Hatri was here with us. Again, I want to thank the friendly men for helping to making that happen for us, and also for postponing their interview. They actually had a taped interview with Yui Bowl up and running, ready to go. They're editing it, and they were going to run it. But our live show was going to happen, and I asked them if they would postpone their show for just give me a week or so until after our live show, and they were very gracious enough, and they did that. So they too have an interview with Yui Bull coming up too, and I don't know anything about it. I'm not sure what questions they asked. Obviously, I didn't see it, but I'm looking forward to watching it. There's our good friend Echo. Echo, me and Echo will be doing a double duty this week. Um, he will also be on the midnight hour, and he and I will once again be co-hosting the House of Horrors this weekend, this Saturday at 8 o'clock. Uh, I'm actually working on a guest. I'm working on a guest. If you see the cover down below, Werewolf Island versus Cocaine Cougar, do not fear. That's probably not going to happen. Um, it could happen, but I don't think it will. Uh, uh, but well, we're trying to figure out something to go with the show. So we will see. Uh, oh, I don't know. I thought you were going to be on there Thursday. Oh, okay. I thought you said you had three streams in a row. So I thought you were going to be doing the Echo Side, Midnight Hour, and House of Horrors. I'm hoping to get our guest confirmed today. Today, no later than tomorrow. So we will see. We will see. Speaking of guests and upcoming guests, let me tell you what's going on. I got a big announcement, and that is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. I know I had it listed for 8. It's not 8 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock. Our guest is over and I thought she was in Los Angeles. I thought she flew to Los Angeles, but she's in the UK. So we had to change the time of the show. So tomorrow at 2 p.m., 2 p.m. I'll probably do a pop up beforehand just to let people know that we will be going on at 2 p.m. tomorrow. We will be talking to the actress Lydia Helen tomorrow. It's at 2 o'clock. And then we're doing back-to-back shows from the UK because Thursday we're going back. We're interviewing Rick Langan, director screenwriter Rick Langan, actor Alex Butler, and actress Kelly Goody Price. We'll be talking to them at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and then Thursday night we'll be talking with film director Asif Akbar, whose brand new movie came out on Lionsgate last week called Mojave Diamonds. And we will be talking to him about that. He also directed a movie called, oh gosh, The Commandos. And that was with Michael J. White and Mickey Rourke. Hi, Anthony. I see you there, buddy. I saw that you. I saw that you watched the Apartment, Anthony. I definitely have to say, I think Anthony has the most variety of movies watched at anybody in our community. That guy will watch anything. He doesn't care what genre it is. He could watch The Flash today and watch Cary Grant tomorrow. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Watch along. That's right. Okay, so where are you going to do the watch along? Where are you going to do Relic at? Echo. Um, are you hosting Relic? That'll be a fun. That's gonna be a fun. I love the series. I love the Pendergast series. I do. It's just hard to watch Relic because I know that the main star is not there. It's sort of weird. It's like having a Superman movie without Superman in it. You know what I'm saying? It's Superman you have Superman everywhere but in the movie. Oh, you're okay. You're hosting it. Okay. And then on Saturday night, me and Echo will be with on the House of Horrors. The regular host Steven is down in Pennsylvania, and he'll be there becoming an official Polonia pal as he is going to be starring in his I think his second movie. His first movie with lines in it, but his second movie overall. So congratulations to Steven. And we wish him nothing but the best. Have a great shoot, and don't come back home without that Poloni interview. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna shock you, Echo. I watched two documentaries that Dustin Ferguson did. That man should stick to doing documentaries. He really should. That's all he should do. He should never do a feature film again, ever, ever. He should do documentaries because he's really good at that. He's really good at that. I thought I watched both of his. I was impressed. I thought that was a lot of fun. He asked some really good questions. They told some really good stories about some of the classic horror films of the 70s and the 90s. I wish he'd come back and do some more of that. That's what he should be doing. Should not be doing feature film ever, 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 never. All right. So I will let you know what's going on the rest of the calendar because you guys got to know what's coming up here. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Lydia Helen will be here at 2 o'clock. I already told you what's going to happen on the 22nd, on the 23rd, Friday, the 23rd. I will be hosting a YouTuber, our friend Shelly from Repurpose My Way. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys are into crafts, you guys are into creativeness, creativity. If you're just so cool to watch somebody take a broken item and make it alive again, like a broken tricycle or a broken clock or a broken something or another. And Shelly, what she'll do is she'll take these pieces and she will fix them, she'll paint them, she'll refurnish them, and then she'll let them off to a new home. It's a hard skill. It's a really hard skill. And Shelly will be talking to us about that. And she even will have some of the pieces that she's worked on. And rumor has it, she might even work on a piece live during the interview. So Let me know what you think about that Friday at 8 o'clock. And the last thing I'll mention before our guest comes in, Francisco Tesoro will be here. Tesoro will be here uh, at 2 p.m. on Saturday. 2 p.m. Saturday, we'll be talking to director Francisco Tesoro, Tesario, or Ario, along with his cast of Friday the 13th, Origins of Evil. His cast will be here. He'll be here on Saturday at 2 p.m. Okay, Andrew Jara is here. He is the screenwriter and the director of The Empty Space. He also did an excellent film called The Last Ones. And let's go get him. Ta-da! He's back.
Hello. Thank you
How
for
are
having me
you?
back.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm excited to have you back.
yeah, me too. I'm good. I'm doing good. It's been fun watching the movie come out. And last time we got to hint at it, but now we get to talk about it a little bit more.
We are coming in. We are seeing some folks come in. Hello, Dell. How are you? How are you? Glad you are here. All right. Our good friend Echo is here. Some other folks are here. Can you see the comments? Okay.
Yes.
Good.
What's up was from Dell. Hey Dell.
Okay, good, good. So some of the folks might be coming on in. They might have some questions for you. So that's always encouraged.
Cool.
Um, yeah, last time you and I talked, you were coming off. We were talking about the last ones, and what a fantastic movie that was.
Oh well,
Um,
thank you. Yeah,
yeah, that was a good one.
thank you.
I really and I know that you were. I think you were in pre-production. I think you were in pre-production for the Empty Space last time we talked, right?
No, we
Okay.
were waiting for Bayview to kind of tell us when it was going to be released. It had already finished by that point.
Oh, it had.
Yeah.
Okay. How long had it been? You must have just finished it then.
It's kind of funny. So we finished it 2019, and the problem was like we finished it December, and then by January is when Corona hit, and it kind of like shut down all the festivals across the whole world. And so we had to like take a huge break and just kind of like wait to see if festivals were going to open up, because like that first year, as soon as they closed down the country, like every festival closed down. And so we just had to wait for a whole year. And even the second year, they were coming back, but it was a lot of like they didn't have the same time. They didn't have the same like backing, and so like it was like a lot of the festivals were smaller, and so it made it kind of difficult to get into festivals, and so we just kind of had to ride out that whole wave, not to be not to be too callous about the pandemic, but like that's just kind of what we had to do for that.
I think that most of them now are back up and running. I mean, I definitely know the conventions are. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and we were just talking with. I mean, I guess it's really weird. We were talking to Huey Boll on Sunday, and he was saying how he was filming in New York, and even though the CDC had said the pandemic officially was over,
Mhm.
um, but New York was still doing the COVID tests for movie sets. And he's like,
Oh,
"Why are
right.
you? Yeah, why are you still doing that when they give you the all clear?"
Yeah.
um, but I think, but I mean, all the conventions are up and running now.
Mhm.
Filming's full bore. People are making movies. People are going to see them. I'm seeing them on a pretty good scale. They're coming back. They're coming
Yeah,
back. I think
definitely.
maybe another year or so, and I think we'll get exactly everything. I mean, it's still a little soft, I guess.
Right. Right.
Um, I mean, I know the box office looks really good when you see that. Yeah, such and such movie made 150 million dollars, but when you consider the fact of the price of the tickets now, it's less people are going to the movie still because
Right.
it's not the same numbers that they were. It's just that the tickets are inflated, so the box office looks bigger, but not enough people are coming in. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I did not know this. I have not been to the movies since It Two Part Two came out, and I saw that at a matinee for $5.
Yeah.
So I was really shocked when I saw that people were ticket movie prices now are like $14.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like I'm going like, well, that ends my movie going experience because I'm not paying $14. I will wait. I will be patient. That's
Yeah.
really, really expensive.
Yeah. And
Um,
even me, I've been kind of taking some like I'm more selective now with what I go see. Where before, I mean, you just kind of go whenever.
oh
But
yeah.
between like yeah, the costs and everything else, it's just yeah, I definitely take it a little bit not as much anymore.
I
And
mean,
that's why it's cool to have so much streaming.
yeah, because they've really taken the fun out of going. Now, you used to go, you can go to a matinee, you go to a $5, $6 ticket, you go ahead and buy that. You go in there, there'd be all sorts of movies to watch, a selection, be all sorts of selection. Um, and then you go in there, you get a popcorn, and you get a popcorn and a Coke. Yeah, that was going to cost you $6 or $7. Okay, you knew that. And you go and watch a movie and what have you. And then on the way out, if you bought the large popcorn, you get that for the way home, and then he had a really good experience.
Right.
Now you have to go ahead and you have to pick your seat where you're going to sit at.
Mhm.
You can't sit wherever you want. You have to sit where they tell you.
Mhm.
They're charging you $14. Matinees like 10 or $12 now. Uh, I don't even know what the food cost is. I know, and they serve alcohol in there. So now, in case now when you have a big movie, now you have run the risk of sitting next to someone who's rowdy if they've had a
Right.
few drinks with them. And so all in all, the movie going experience as we know it, it sort of just has there's just no joy in it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So, and like I especially now with the coronavirus, sometimes with the chairs you kind of get lucky, but yeah, it's difficult, especially like when you sit there and you realize, oh, I don't want to sit here. It's hard to move because you've already like selected that seat, and then you know it just makes it that much harder.
Our good friend and anthology expert Anthony is here. Fever Dreamland Theater, member of the Mighty Cinema Squad. The Cinema Squad, they're a powerful group, a collective of film critics, and Anthony's one of them. He also is a resident expert on all things Twilight Zone.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. His reviews of the Twilight Zone are the best I've ever heard. Um, Makes me mad though. Every time I see it, it makes me mad because I can't get the Outer Limits from the '90s. I can't get a good release of that. It's
Right.
it's, it's not very good. So I struggle because I want to talk Outer Limits with somebody.
I,
Um,
you know what? I was more of a Twilight Zone guy myself. I have to say, it was the song. The song made you like Twilight Zone more.
let's see. And Dell's chipping in here too. Let's see. He is saying that. Yeah, I think he's agreeing with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Paying $20 to AMC A List has kept me going to theaters. If my wife goes with me, we usually go to matinees, so it's manageable. See, you're taking the fun away from going to the theater when it's manageable. It's just, and then what happens if the movie sucks? Like you go see Bo was Afraid. Could you imagine spending $14 plus snacks to go see that piece of poo? I
I have
mean,
yet to see it. Yeah, but and that was one of the things. Is yeah, was it's like I said, I've just been more selective with what is coming out.
yeah. Uh, uh, Anthony agrees with me about Bo is Afraid. I'm actually setting them up, and he knows it. Because I'm not the biggest A24 fan, so I always have fun with it.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, but I love independent. I love Bayview. I want to get into the Empty Space because
Sure.
this is a really interesting movie.
Yeah.
Now, now I have to admit, on a personal level, I have to admit I had more problems with this movie than the last one.
Mm.
Um, in the sense of because you're talking about grief and loss,
Right. Right.
and of course I'm no expert at that. Who every one of us has experienced that sooner
Right.
than later, right? So it's only from my point of view that I'm
Mhm.
talking from. But I don't know what it is, but ever since that I've gone through what I have in my life, I don't know why, but I just find myself super, super sensitive to what I see, how the experience is portrayed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I saw this movie called Lullaby, and it was an all-star cast. Richard Jenkins, Garrett Hunlin, Jennifer Hudson, just a ton of A-listers. And Richard Jenkins plays the dad, and he's dying of cancer, and they're trying to get the family to, everybody's got their dark secrets. They're trying to get out before dad dies and whatnot. And he's in the hospital, and Jennifer Hudson plays this nurse, and she's rude as hell. She's brass. She's supposed to be this nurse with a heart or something, whatever. Um, it really upset me watching it. It
Right.
really, yeah, really upset me. I was really furious. Like it took me like it took me I had to turn it off because I
Mhm.
had to walk around for a minute because that's not how it goes. That's not how
Right.
that's not how any oncology nurse is. I've been around my fair share of oncology nurses for 2.5 years, so I got to see them work up close and personal, and I never saw not a single person ever come close to what was portrayed in that movie. And it's hard to watch because it's
Right.
bullshit, but we're
Mhm.
doing, we're taking liberties with it. It's like, wow, that's, I can't tell you, like, it's like, can you take liberties somewhere else? Um, So, and the only problem I had, I mean, the biggest problem I had with it was when you had and I want to know where you're coming from with this
Yeah,
because
sure.
maybe you can explain this with me. So the thing I love, I mean, I liked the cast of your
Mhm.
of your movie. Um, but the scene I didn't like, it really bothered me was she went when the main actress. Let me go ahead and I'm going to just say name actress. That's not good. That's that's just that's just isn't good. It's like main actors. Yeah. Let's talk to her by the names because your actress and then you can tell us about how you cast your movie. I'd like to know
Sure.
that too. So the main character in Empty Space is Amy.
Mhm.
Now, and Amy goes to a grief group.
Mhm.
Hey, Ice Lord. All right, Ice Lord's in the hizzy. Um, so she goes to a grief group, and it's a small group, and it's being led. And she walks down there after what happened to her, and immediately there were some really rude and sexist comments. Some
Mhm.
guy up on her and whatnot. And I just really, for some reason, that just really set my teeth on edge. Like,
Mhm.
you're down there because you're there for grieving a loss. So, last thing that you're thinking about is hitting up on anybody.
Right.
And not only that, I don't think that the moderator of that would ever allow that. I mean, you might get away with it once, like, hey, that girl's
Mhm.
sexy. You might get away with that comment once,
Mhm.
but I think as soon as the meeting was over, you're probably going to get asked not to come back for that. I
Right.
don't know. That's just my gut feeling.
Mhm.
But I wanted to know about that scene before we get into the movie proper. Now,
Sure.
did that come from a personal experience that you saw, or from someone who said that happened, or did you take liberties for the
No,
story?
it came. So a lot of this came from my own experiences with dealing with mental health and going to these kind of groups and everything. And it was kind of some of the things that I saw there and kind of the way that things are treated. And I think it's kind of that thing where we really wanted to portray it from. I mean, like you were saying, everyone has a different point of view, and so I really wanted to try to keep everything like as far as like the group and that kind of stuff as what I saw, as opposed to, like you said, taking liberties. And so, like, we used a lot of real world experiences and stuff I saw and everything like that, especially with the group, because, like you were saying, we didn't want to take at like especially with that, we don't want to take liberties as much as kind of portray it as I saw it and as things that were happening and experiencing to me.
So the group itself was. I mean, I thought it was just like a grief group, like like
Mhm.
for people who dealt with losses. Was it more of a mental health group? Because you couldn't. I don't think you. I don't think you would mix the two. I don't think. I don't
Right.
think. I don't think it would be healthy to mix the two. a grief group plus a mental health and mental
Mhm.
wellness group. It's two different animals.
Right.
Um, I don't think you would cross it. But I mean, so did I just see the group wrong? Did I see it as a grief group solely instead of a mental health group? Because I thought that's what I saw.
Yeah, we had it as like a tragedy group, which is how we saw it. Here over here, it's a pretty small town, and I think that's kind of what we were trying to portray, this kind of like small community, and so you kind of have to lump things together. And so we had it as, instead of not necessarily grief, but just tragedy in general. And as the characters kind of talk, you notice that they all have had an event that they're all trying to like work through. And a lot of times that is grief. Some of the people, like we had the one character Mel, who couldn't drive because of a tragedy in her life as well, and so we kind of had it. And there's like a sign in the building, but we just wanted, it's kind of like, it's called Healing Together. And so yeah, we wanted it to have like, the underlining thing is that everyone in the group had a tragedy happen to them, and that they were trying to overcome or just kind of figure out a way to keep going. And like a lot of them had been able to, had it, like the only place that they would go to is that grief counselor. And again, just kind of talking to people, a lot of times what ends up happening is that they kind of like, it becomes a security blanket for them. And so they keep, like, even if they can't go anywhere else, even if they can't leave their house, they can at least go to this one group place and kind of find a place to connect. And so that's really what we were trying to deal, or kind of portray.
Yeah, it was just a weird dynamic,
Mhm.
because you saw the girl walks in before anybody knows her story, before anybody
Right.
knows Amy's story, they're hitting on her, and I just
Mhm.
thought that just would not fly. It just wouldn't go. People would that would be like, yeah, we need to talk. Because you still got to have boundaries. I mean, even
Right.
more so, in a group like that, you have
Mhm.
to have respect and boundaries. Uh, I mean, and that's just like I said. It was weird. It
Yeah.
was weird watching that scene. Um, so so the movie itself, and the mental health of it, I guess, I don't know. Is it, you know, I was thinking, because of the trauma that Amy saw in the
Yeah.
movie, what she sees and what she experiences. Um, that was a It was it was how did you decide on the plot for this movie? Where did the generators from, Andrew? I mean, was it something that you heard or experienced, or was it just creative?
No, it was something that I had experienced. It was kind of trying to wrap my head around the way that I dealt with depression and anxiety and grief and everything like that. And I really wanted to portray it as I kind of felt it, because it was that thing where, and one of the ways we tried to do it is that we had everyone kind of represent a different aspect of how they dealt with grief. Because that was one of the main things I saw in these groups, and when you're kind of talking to people, is everyone deals with grief in a different way. And so that's one of the things we didn't want to say, this was like Amy was having um the definitive journey of grief, and or anyone in that group. And so we wanted to portray it as well. And yeah, it was just a lot of like, kind of like, when you're coming off of an event like that and you're not 100% sure um, how to keep going. That was my main thing, because I was in that very position, and so I wanted to kind of portray that as well as I could. And so, yeah, a lot of that stuff is what I felt and how you felt. And it's also the thing where you have an unreliable narrator, and so we definitely wanted to convey that, like, you're never 100% sure what's in Amy's head and what's not. And so, and that's kind of how it is when I was dealing with it. Like, you kind of float through life, and everything kind of feels off, and so that's kind of what I was going for in the portrayal of her. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it was interesting, because we see the loss, and we see Amy trying to grapple with it, um the first half of the movie, it really plays strong as a drama. It
Mhm.
really does.
Yeah.
It's an interesting twist. It goes like straight drama. It was just like like, wow, this is heavy. This is, and then you flipped it over on a side. on his head, and you made it what you call a cosmic core,
Mm.
and you started, like you said, I think you started fracturing Amy's psyche in the second half of the movie. Well, either fracturing it or coming together.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's her. It was a really interesting choice that she made her soulmate basically come back as her destroyer.
Right.
I take it that he represented, and I tell me if I'm spoiling this, let me know. But I took it from the movie that her boyfriend came back in the guise of suicide. That's who he represented it.
I think it represents a lot of things. One of the things I wanted him to represent is, there's that when as we're all like living, there was always that, when you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with a bad event, you're trying to get over it, and it's that same thing where like you're trying to get over something that was so traumatic you can't forget about it, so it's always kind of lingering there. And so it was this kind of the boyfriend was representing like the life that she kind of wanted. And so it's that thing where like, eventually you have to see if you can you have to kind of make that decision for yourself on how you want to view the past and view like and try to get over your trauma. And it's like there's a million different ways, but he was kind of representing all these things that she had lost and had been kind of promised to her with the with the fact that her boyfriend, when you're in a relationship, you're not exactly thinking of how it's going to end, you're thinking of how it's going to keep going, you're
No,
thinking of
no, you're right. You're right.
yeah.
I
And
mean, it's a heavy movie.
right.
Um, yeah. Dell wants to know, where can he watch your movie at? Uh, did Bayview give you a physical release, or is it on streaming?
It's right now it's both. So right now you can rent it on like Amazon, on Vudu, on a couple of others, or you can buy it in Walmart, Amazon. Again, you can buy the Blu-ray, Barnes and Nobles, places like that. So you can do both. And so right now those are the places to find it.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm actually, I was thinking about, this movie could also be because you're right, all those things that you are promised, all the things you're expecting,
Mhm.
all the things, your whole future, and all of a sudden, in a heartbeat, it was just taken, it's gone.
Right, right.
Well, let me ask you this question: what do you think is worse, the way that the way that it happened for Amy? Noah's there one minute, Noah's gone the next minute. Do you think that was the harshest way or do you think it's the harshest way that Amy could have saw it, or you think if it was a like a long term illness,
I
how do you think would Amy have reacted differently in your opinion?
I do think that there's a difference between, with long term. I don't think. I mean, you always tell yourself, well, like, oh, well, it's going to take a little bit of time. So it's going to give me more time to kind of come to terms with it. And I don't think you ever do. Like I've had family members who are sick, and when they pass, it's like you're never ready for it. And so I do think Amy probably would have handled it a little bit better. I think it's the way that everything was stripped from her immediately when you're unprepared. It just makes it. I mean, like I said, it happened to me, and I was unprepared for anything that happened. And so you kind of like I said, you want to go back to this thing that you really can't go back to anymore. Like you're not. It's the same thing with Amy. Like you're not the same person that you were before, and that's why like we kind of shied away from doing too many flashbacks. There's a couple just to kind of give you a sense of everything, but we really wanted to keep you in the now because, like again, when you look back at the things you were and the person you were, you can't grab that person anymore. They're gone. And so it's not just the loss of the person you lost or the traumatic event, but it's also the loss of who you were because you've changed because of that thing. And so
Yeah,
I definitely wanted it to be a very severe, quick action. Because again, like I always think about that, especially when I was working in the news, like sometimes you're there and where you're on your way to lunch or to work or whatever, and then suddenly everything's different and you just don't. you have to like figure out what comes next, and you know there's no way to plan for that. And so it was definitely a conscientious choice to have it be something quick and something violent.
Yeah. I mean, you can almost make this. You can almost make a case. You can almost make this case that this is a almost sort of like an anti-gun movie, because of how it happened and why it happened, and you showed the victim and you showed
Right.
what she went through. I
Hmm.
mean, I think that there's a lot of ways you could go with this. You
Right,
know,
right.
and
And one of the
is this something that you when you wrote? I mean, this movie must have been incredibly hard to write.
yeah, especially like there's a speech that she gives in the middle about where she name drops the title, The Empty Space, and she talks about that. And that wasn't anything like I didn't need any practice for that. That was just me putting what I felt on the page. And there was a couple of times when screenwriting that I had to take breaks because it was too heavy. Like you're trying to, you know, we didn't I didn't expect it to be a horror film when I started. I was kind of going, like you were saying, for a more dramatic film. But then as I was writing it, I really wanted the audience to feel what it was like to have anxiety attacks, to like feel that kind of isolation and being alone, and to kind of feel like everything's constantly moving in on you. And so we so yeah, there was definitely times that I had to take a break, even when filming. Even now, when watching it back, I mean, I've seen this movie so many times, but that speech always gets to me. And it's kind of like, one of the things we wanted to do was kind of we didn't want to portray anyone as one note. Even the guy who breaks into their house, we kind of give him a reprieve. And so it's that thing where it's like I don't think anyone is black and white. I think everything's sides of gray. Even the character that you didn't like, the one with the big mouth, we kind of wanted to portray him as like a coping mechanism that's still, and we wanted to make sure we put that it's not okay for them to do that, but that is the way that people cope. And so we really wanted to try to show all these different aspects and never show anyone as black or white, and kind of show them as matters of gray, and just kind of see how things played out. And so there was definitely an anti-gun thing. Anytime we used the gun, we really wanted it to be for a specific reason. And so yeah, that kind of we kind of threw all that in there as well.
I mean, what I meant, that's interesting you say that about, about you want to show him, and the gentleman, the one that was, not because I mean, it's just like like I mentioned, like he wouldn't have been allowed in the group, he wouldn't have been. Doesn't and I want to make sure you understand. I didn't say that he wouldn't act that way. I just say he wouldn't act that way in the group because he could have acted that way outside the group perfectly fine. I've known people who have disintegrated after emotional trauma. I knew one very good guitar player who took care of his dad the last year of his life, and that just absolutely destroyed
Right.
him. He crashed and burned, and it took a long time for it to happen, but he died a really slow, painful death.
Yeah.
Uh, he really did. Um,
Right.
I mean, there's some days that you know that I feel the same way, which is why I think this movie spoke to me a little bit on this level because I've experienced both. I've experienced sudden, the loss of my brother,
Mhm.
who got shot and killed. So I experienced that part, and then I experienced my wife dying over 2.5 years.
Right.
So I got the best of both worlds. And someone asked me, says, "Well, what's the hardest one to deal with?" And for me, from my perspective, it was the long term. It
Right.
was the long one because you got to see it every day, all day.
Yeah.
Oh, and after 2.5 years, you're just the person you were beforehand. Just like Amy.
Right. Yeah.
Amy, by the end of the movie, Amy's not, even though she's not the same person, and she comes damn near close to losing it. She almost takes the way out.
Mhm.
Noah's offering her, come with me.
Mhm.
And, in good Lord, a lot of people do that. They do follow him,
Right.
for what he represents. But she managed to come back. But you're right. I think why she made it come back, she came back broken.
Right.
I mean, if people think that she comes back and at the end of the movie she's gonna be all right, they gotta go back and watch the movie because that ain't happening.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know her future, but we do know that maybe she's gonna take a step forward to coping with this.
Hmm.
Because, like you said, you don't ever recover from that. You really
Right.
don't.
Right.
Um, seeing someone you love, seeing someone you love killed right next to you. No, no, that's your past life is. It, as soon as that
Yeah.
trigger's pulled, it's over with.
Yeah.
Um, and hats off to you for acknowledging that, for seeing that.
Well, and what it's funny because, like I said, when I started writing this, I was still in the midst of a lot of stuff that I was dealing with, and the original ending has her completely getting over it, and I think it was a
Mhm.
little bit of wish fulfillment. And so, as like that's kind of like I had thought of the ending and I loved it, and then as I was writing it and as I was healing myself, I did realize like, oh, there is no real cure. Like you get better, you kind of you start like figuring out how to live, but you like you said, you're not the same person. You're never going to be that person anymore. And so as I kept going and as I found myself healing, I didn't want to portray that there was this solution that you can just like flip a switch and you're back to normal. And so eventually, as much as I wanted to give Amy that perfect happy ending, because in a way I was kind of giving it to myself, I
Right.
realized how disingenuous it would have been if we had kept that ending. And I
Because
didn't want. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, you're right. Because I mean, if you would, I mean, think about it. You're sitting here giving her a happy ending. It's based on you, and you're sitting there writing it, going like, "You're not happy.
Right, right.
You didn't get a happy ending. So how is she? I mean, yeah, it might have been like, okay, because my life is so screwed up. At least
Mhm.
I could do is make my character's life a
Right.
hallmark ending. But in actuality, because you were true to yourself as a screenwriter and as a storyteller, you kept you you were honest with your emotions
Right.
because Amy is you. That's
Mhm.
in that sense, in many senses, and so you stay true to yourself and to your story.
Yeah.
Um, now the other question is like here it is. We're talking this heavy ass story,
Yeah.
heavy heavy story. How did you find your cast? Because you're asking them to tell, you're asking them to tell a personal story,
Mhm.
very personal story on a very emotional level. To me, that just seems like you would need a some heavy hitters for that storytelling. But your actors didn't have that much experience, did they?
Right. No, they didn't. A lot like Valerie Aline, who plays the lead, Amy Andrews. It was her first role. She had been in a couple of smaller things, but it was her first role. A lot of the supporting cast I had worked with before, like Joe Sinclitico, who plays the boyfriend Noah. He was in Borderland. The Dion Lewis, who plays Brad, was also in Borderland. So was Pablo Medina. And with Valerie and Mel, or Rachel Olsen, who plays Mel, they those were the first times I was working with them, and a lot of times I was auditioning, and we auditioned everyone. Valerie Aline ended up being from North Carolina, but I was auditioning anyone who would want to audition and kind of giving them a breakdown of what the story was and how it worked together. And a lot of times, because like you said, it is a complicated movie. So I would like usually when you're auditioning people, you'll send them like a piece of it, or like you'll send them like a good scene that you think kind of encaptures the role. But a lot of times with this one I was sending them the full script just so they could kind of get a sense, because again, one of the things that I wanted to do was have Amy be very well rounded as a character. She is broken, but there's a lot that she still kind of can laugh with someone, or she can kind of make fun of someone if it calls for it. And so I really wanted to do that, and so we auditioned a couple of people. Valerie was very receptive, and I liked working with her. But even then, once we kind of narrowed it down, I still had her and a couple of other actresses audition a couple of different scenes just so we could see how she worked here and how she worked here and how she worked here, and because there's so much of it that's all over the place. And then even after that, once we had chosen Valerie, we rehearsed for about 2 months, just me and her. And she would like sometimes we would go through scenes line by line and be like, in this scene or in this line, this is kind of what she's trying to portray, and here she's trying to portray this. Just because again, it was a super complicated role, and luckily Valerie was was very excited to kind of jump into it. And she dealt with anxiety before too. Not, she told me it was not similar to the way I did. It wasn't as severe, but she had at least that kind of backstory. And so she did want to also portray it as realistic as possible. And so, yeah, it was just, you want to find the best actor. And, this time we found her in South Carolina. And so it's just a matter of once you find it, you want to hold on and figure out the best way to kind of get her down here and have her act for it. And I think she did a phenomenal job. She was really able to kind of grab onto the material. And so I got very lucky, like you said, sometimes you work with people who don't have a lot of experience. And so you just kind of have to trust yourself, trust the actor, and kind of dive in head first and see what happens.
I think it's pretty good though, in one sense, in this, especially for a story like this. I think it actually worked in your favor not to have the experience,
Mm-hmm.
because whereas before you're sitting there going like, I need to have heavy hitters in this. But if you think about it, have someone brand new like Valerie, they don't have any set habits
Right.
or characteristics. They're going to be open to direction. You
Mm-hmm.
know, instead of coming in there going like, oh, okay, I get what he's trying to say, and then deliver it wrong.
Right.
And I mean, it's a catch. I guess it's a catch 22.
Mm-hmm.
You gamble that you're finding a young talent that's open to direction, but they have to be talented as well. You don't want to
Right.
take that chance and put somebody in there who's not a good actor, because that would just ruin the movie completely. Because they
Yeah.
don't they don't have any sense of what the story you're trying to tell.
Right, right. And with this one, I think the character of Amy is in 95% of the movie. And so if the audience doesn't fall behind her, like there's no saving that film. And so we really wanted, and I understand that not everyone's gonna, fall in love with the character, but I really wanted someone that I felt could trust it, and someone that,
Yeah,
as long as I felt she was doing a good job, I thought that like that's kind of sometimes where you have to be. And so I think, like you saying, I'm glad that you were receptive to her, and hopefully other people are as well. And so, yeah, I'm very excited.
yeah. What really was daring about the performance too, and I'll give you credit for this too, because normally something like this would not work very well, but Amy herself, because we don't really know her too much before what happened.
Right.
We only
Mm-hmm.
get her afterwards, and the
Mm-hmm.
afterward is the fallout. And
Right.
that, I think, you see how what happened to her has changed her personality. Because quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly, Andrew, I mean, she you don't really like her very much, because she's so broken,
Mm-hmm.
and she's spiky, and she has
Right.
a lot of flaws out because
Mm-hmm.
of what she went through. So
Yeah.
she's not someone you can really embrace, like, oh, you want to go up there and give her a hug. I
Right.
mean, quite honestly, did you feel like that after what happened to you? Did you feel like, that's what you needed? Because I know I didn't.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to just come up there and just like, because I didn't want to be triggered.
Right. Right. And I think
So
that is one of the things that I was going for. I didn't want to portray her again. It's that thing where you want to portray her as super well rounded, and sometimes, especially near the middle, especially kind of at the beginning when she's getting to know people, she comes off as a bit of a jerk. And I felt like even when I was dealing with it, I kind of came off like a bit of a jerk sometimes too. And it's just kind of the way you're portraying yourself, and there was points where I knew I could tell that I was like, oh, you're being mean, but like I couldn't you can't turn it like you're trying, but you're so broken that it's hard. And so I wanted to have that in there, that kind of like, it doesn't always make you silent. Sometimes it makes you into this person that you don't even want to be in. So
no.
that's definitely something we try to portray. Yeah.
One thing that, like, from my experience, one thing happened to me was, I went from being a pretty really peaceful person, you know, now here it is, even 10 years later, and I have anger issues.
Right.
I have to work very hard at that,
Hmm.
very hard,
Yeah.
as far as keeping that down, because it's sort of like I'm pissed off. And
Right.
and Amy's like that too, and I can definitely see that. And I'm like, I mean, that's why I could relate to her in some respects. I definitely could relate to her and go like, yeah, I feel you, girl.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to come up there and be patted on, and and they always tell you that all those platitudes, like time heals, and
Right.
things that get better over in time, or or the one I loved the best was she would want you to do this or do that, and it's like, you didn't know her at all. If
Right.
you don't know her at all. If
Yeah.
if, when says she would want you to do this, what she would have wanted? She would have fucking wanted not to die.
Right. Right.
And you sit there, and that's you tell that to people. Um, so I mean, hats off to her for getting in touch with the role, and she did it really well, because you're not really a like you said, you're not really a she's hard to like, until the latter half. Then you see what she's facing.
Mhm.
She's facing Noah, what he represents. How did you come up with the idea of making Noah represent? I mean, I guess Noah could be anybody related to it, right? I saw him more as suicide, but I don't know how you saw him as. What does Noah represent to you?
Yeah, like I said, I think Noah represents all the like the because when at least for me when I was dealing with grief and oh hi bud when I was dealing with grief and different kind of things, it's just like it's all these things that are holding you down, this kind of life that's holding you down. And so to me that's what it represents. It kind of represents like almost the easy way out, which you've manifested in a very particular way, which was kind of one of the options. But it's just kind of like you have to there's always the option to kind of, like I said, take the easy way out, whatever that means to you, whether it's kind of wallowing in everything and like not moving on, or whether it's suicide, or whether it's just kind of like not taking care of yourself. Because I know for me, one of the things was like I like nothing. There was no like difference between like days for me. Everything was the same. I was like kind of floating through everything, and I could have kept doing that. It was just kind of like um, it's that kind of like that pull that your mental illness has on you, and a lot of times it does go to that terrible place. Or sometimes even like I've known people who, once something happens like that, they just never kind of come back. And so that's what I wanted Noah to represent, this kind of like you either have to like live in our world, which has these tragedies, which has these terrible things happening in them, or you can kind of retreat to like this lie that you force yourself to live in. And that's kind of what Noah represents to me, like that lie that you kind of convince yourself is the truth.
Now, and this movie was being made before the pandemic,
Mhm.
and then the pandemic hit. Wow,
Right.
what timing, right? I mean, you're just like you wrote for the perfect damn movie. You made the perfect damn movie. It's like, how do you represent the COVID experience? Here, I got a movie for you. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how many people are watching it like we are, or like how you created and I watched it, that are sitting there going like, man, this guy's talking to me. What kind of receptions have you gotten for the movie? Have you gotten any fan letters or any fan mail or any people talking to you about the movie?
Yeah, so far the reception has been really good. We've had a couple of reviews; they've all been positive. I think the cool thing about it being an independent film is, like you said, there's the way we cut the trailer was purposely misleading because we didn't want people to know what was going in. And I think with such a small film, we're kind of able to do that, to kind of shock people with what the movie's actually about. But we've had some of the best reception we've had on these films. People really liked it. They're really responding to it. I've had a couple of people who said they saw it and they dealt with anxiety and they felt very similar. I had someone who told me that it kind of recreated an anxiety attack for them, which again, that's a huge compliment for us because that's what we were going for. We wanted to get you inside the head of someone having an anxiety attack. And I think one of the best compliments I get, which sounds a little weird, but we had someone who had to turn it off because they were so like moved by it, and they had to like finish it later, just because, not for the same reason that you were talking about earlier, but because it was so intense for them that they couldn't keep going. They had to take a break, and then they were able to finish it and they really liked it. But the fact that they were like so freaked out and so like it hit them so hard that um that they had to take a break was a huge, like, at least we're on the right track where people are feeling things and kind of feeling for these characters. Because like with this one, there's, like you said, the first kind of 45 minutes is just a drama where we're trying to get you to introduce these characters and get to know them. And so that's kind of a long time for someone to hang on to a horror film. And so the fact that people are responding and people are kind of sticking with us is has
You,
been like a great
we don't
reception.
get we definitely don't get a lot of horror drama films. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We get horror comedy, we get a horror dark comedy, we get horror thrillers, horror suspense, but horror drama is not
right,
what it's not a niche that's touched very often. And like, like 45 minutes in, and people are going like, okay, this is a heavy drama. I'm getting it.
right,
And then like you said, you turned everything upside down, and it's then all of a sudden now you're in, now you're in the white water. Now you're
right.
going down the river, and I think a lot of people can, like I said, I think that they can definitely relate to it. And I'm just thinking that the timing came out for the COVID, and wow, it's like holy, how many people were sitting there watching that, going like, I can relate to this way too, because a million people died, so they're
Yeah.
sitting there, like, um, did you did you get do you have you showed the film out to any other, like, have you gotten invited? I know it's a little rated R-ish, a little bit,
Mhm.
but have you been invited to take the film to show it on to groups around because you're still based in El Paso, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we have a screening coming up on August 5th because there's an independent film theater here in El Paso that they want to show the film, and so we're going to do that. We were able to get, even though like we were held down by some of the virus, we were able to get it into a couple of festivals. We got into the Sacramento Horror Film Festival, which is a pretty big one, and we ended up winning Best of the Fest at that film festival, which was great. It was our first one back after COVID, and to come back after waiting almost 2 years to even get it in front of everyone and to win Best of the Fest at our first festival and one of our biggest festivals was a great feeling. I don't think we've won a couple of awards, but nothing like that. And so it felt really good. And again, like from the beginning, because people could write comments and I would see them because you always say I'm not going to check the comments, but then they start coming in and you kind of want to start checking them. And so, but the people were very receptive to it. They were really digging it, and it's an interesting movie, especially like I said, I've been with this movie so long that before we showed it at the premiere, there was a couple of people who asked me like, "Oh, is it scary?" And I was like, "Not really." And then and they would tell me that they were freaked out by the end of it, and I was like, I guess because I've been with it so long, it kind of I know every trick and turn, but so it's interesting to see it again through other people's eyes who have no idea what it is, and to find
I,
those
I
scenes.
I definitely wouldn't say it was so much scary, but I definitely think it speaks to the heart.
Right.
It's very, it speaks to the heart. It tells people like, hey, when you go through something heavy like that, there
Mhm.
is no Hallmark ending. It's not going to end. It's not going to end. In a year.
Right.
It's not going to. It's not. You're not going to heal. I mean, once you understand that, once you grasp that, like,
Yeah.
I've seen people tell me, like, they keep on saying that it's going to heal. I'm going to feel better. It's going to get easier. And here it is, 5 years down the road, and it hasn't. Is it
Right.
me? Am I doing something wrong? No,
Mhm.
no, you're not.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's affecting you the way it does. You're not doing anything at all. You're just along for the ride. If so there's no right or wrong. It's like, there's like, I got asked this a lot afterwards. I was really surprised because I never asked this question,
Mhm.
but I got asked it a lot afterwards. And that is, well, what do I do?
Right. Right.
They come to me and go like, what do I do? And I'm going like, what, you're asking me? I don't know what to tell you. I
Mhm.
mean, I can only tell you, like, this is everybody's journey is 100% their own.
Right.
My wife can't. My wife has cancer. Okay. that might be the only thing we have in common. I
Right.
can't tell you how you're going to react. I can't tell you how she's going to react. I can't tell you any. There's no playbook for it.
Hmm.
There's no playbook for this. You have to deal with this on your own. I mean, there's
Right.
certain things I can tell you, and that is like, as soon as your loved one passes, don't be in a hurry to get rid of all their possessions. Hang on to it. When they're
Right.
sick, when they're still sick, take your cell phone as much as you can, as much as they're able to. Film, film,
Hmm.
film, film.
Right.
As, tell them that, and when if they tell you that they don't feel like it or they're not feeling too good, tell them that it's for you. It's
Hmm.
just you're helping me because now I
Yeah.
have something to go back to.
Right.
Those are some of the things you can tell somebody who's going through that. But as far as as far as telling you if there's a roadmap, no, there isn't. Um, yeah, Andre saying health is unexpected and it's out of your control. Exactly. I mean, it really
Right.
is. It's like my
Hmm.
my my husband's my husband or my brother has cancer. I can sympathize with you. I can empathize with you. But as far as telling you what to do or how to do it,
Right.
I can't because that's not my journey. It's
Yeah.
yours.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
uh, so let's talk a little bit about El Paso because last time it's very exciting.
Yeah.
We're talking about the last ones, and now you got now. Other than Valerie, was the whole cast all local?
No, so Joe and Rachel are from LA, but other than them, everyone else was from either El Paso or Las Cruces, New Mexico. But yeah, everyone else was close by, which made it a lot easier to kind of schedule things out.
How is the film? No, you said New Mexico too. Now,
Mhm.
how's the scene getting down there? Is it starting to pop again? As far as Texas and as far as New Mexico goes, or more and more theaters going back up, community theaters, that sort of thing. Independent filmmaking, is that starting to pop up again? Starting to get rock and rolling?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's the groups kind of coming back and kind of like again, COVID kind of stopped everything. And even when it was back, it was slowing down because you have to do tests. And like I know when I was doing short films right after, we had to make sure because like especially when we're doing stuff on our budget, if one person gets COVID, like it kind of shuts everything down. And so you want to make sure that you're testing everyone so that that doesn't happen and it just kind of slows things down. But thankfully, like things are kind of picking back up, and we're seeing a lot more productions here and a lot more stuff happening, which is always cool and super great.
So, are you? How long? How long has it been since the Empty Space has been released? Are you still doing your promotional run for it? Are you gonna be going around doing promotion, or are you starting to already work on your next project?
No, right now I'm still in promotion. It came out on May 30th, so about a little bit less than a month. And yeah, we're still. I mean, the cool thing about independent films is things kind of roll out in different waves, and so yeah, we're still doing some promotional stuff. We're still kind of talking about it, and we even have some interviews and stuff coming up. And so it's been very exciting. Like I said, we have a screening on August 5th if you're in El Paso. But yeah, we're just trying to get as many eyes on it as possible and get people
I will
watched.
be. Me and the cheetah will be there in spirit. We will
Nice.
be there in spirit. We on August 5th. We will drop you a note on your Facebook page saying that go Andrew go.
Yeah,
Um, and,
perfect.
and, and if you have a press release, about that,
Mhm.
I think you're inside our group. If not, I'll make sure I'll double check, make sure you are.
No, I
But
am. Yeah, yeah.
feel free to promote. Feel
Oh,
free to
cool.
promote. Let people know about that.
Awesome.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, promotion's everything now.
Mhm.
We've been talking about that, and so what are some of the things? What are some of the things you did to promote this film?
So I've been doing some podcasts like Not Your Final Girl, if anyone listens to that one. We did that one. And then kind of reaching out. Rube Morgue, the magazine, did a review of it. So did Dread Central. There's
Nice.
a, yeah, there's like, and it's cool because like Rube Morgue, Dread Central, I've been reading those since, I found out that the internet existed. And one of the first things I typed into the internet was horror websites. And those are some of the ones that came up. And so to
What
be
about
featured on
Delirium?
those.
What
Oh,
about
God.
Delirium? Did you send it to Delirium?
Not yet, but I will reach out to them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when you do reach out to him, ask for Chris Alexander. He's the editor.
Oh yeah, sure.
Tell him I sent you.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, of course. And like we said, I mean, it's cool. So far, we haven't had. We've gotten a couple of good reviews. We haven't had any negative ones, but like I think it's cool to just see people's perspectives, even if they didn't connect with it, just to kind of get that out there. And like, there's just been um, there's just been so much stuff kind of going on. We were in the local paper, which is always fun.
Oh, that's
Um,
fine.
yeah, and so just stuff like that, just trying to get as many places. We know there's a couple more reviews coming up, and so yeah, just trying to see what else we can do to kind of help get the word out. Because like you said, I mean, it's an
I
independent film.
I waited. I had to because I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again because you might not have heard this one. So I learned a lesson about this. So I was going to interview another director, and I asked him for an interview, and he said yes. So I got a copy of his movie beforehand, and I watched it. And I my review was, it was a little rough. It was a little rough because the movie was a little rough. Okay.
Right.
I saw what the director was trying to do, and I love the concept. Still do. I told him to write it. I told him to write another story. Um, so I did my review before I did the interview, and he comes back and says, "I don't think I can do your show. I don't think I can do this interview with you." Yeah, Lionsgate probably would not like the idea that because you give us a bad review, and then I'm doing this interview. So,
Right.
but I said, I understand. I understand, and I said, but look at it this way: would you have liked it if you would have liked it if I would have interviewed you first, blew smoke up your ass, and then came down and wrote my review as I did?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, he says, would you have respected me less for doing that than writing it out? And I said, I love the guy. So I said, but you know what? I said, you know what? I'm not done with this yet. We're gonna work together.
Yeah.
And so I booked him on another podcast. I said, I told the other podcaster, says, yeah, I sort of got myself in the fire for this, but I think he's a great director. He's a great storyteller, and I think he should be on your show. And he says, all right, yeah, let's do it. So he went on the other show, and I listened to it live. It was awesome. It was like,
Yeah.
and so when I brought my interview series from there to here, uh, I I approached him. He was one of my very first people I approached. I says, "We're doing this," and so he's actually been on the show twice now, and he's an extraordinarily nice guy, super generous, one of the nicest people I've ever met. So I learned a lesson about not doing a review until after I do the interview. Do the
Right.
interview first, come back, do the review. That way, because if you do go, because you run the risk, if you're because I do an honest review, I
Mhm.
do, because I mean that's what you respect. I
Right.
mean you can get some slap happies out there that could, oh my God, Andrew, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and they interview you, and then it doesn't come out that way. So
Right.
I learned the lesson. I haven't done my review, but I am going to review it. And
Cool.
and like I said, it's a personal film, so it'll be I'm going to speak from the heart,
Yeah.
which I like because I don't get too many of those films. I don't get a lot of films like The Empty Space,
Right.
and I think there should be more of them. In fact,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be more of them.
Right.
Um,
Right.
how's the last one's doing it? Is it still making some noise across the country? Last time we talked, it was I like that movie a lot, and I tell people a lot about it. Is it still
Nice.
out there? Is it still doing well for you? Are you still
Yeah,
getting noticed for it?
it's doing really well. And the cool thing is usually when I release a new movie, the other movies kind of do well as well. And so that's kind of cool. We've had a couple of interviews where they'll bring up the last ones, and so I still get to talk about it and kind of like talk. And like again, like we were talking about, I showed someone emailed me and they were like, because they saw it I think last year, but as like the pandemic was kind of as the country was opening up again, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is like a movie that was made during COVID." And I was like, "No, this movie is super old." But we did like I realized that we had researched a lot of what would happen if there was a pandemic, and so a lot of the things aligned with each other. And it was interesting to see it from that point of view, from someone who's now that we've all lived through this kind of shared experience, to see them kind of make that connection that obviously I I did not make when I made that film, because it didn't even like it hadn't crossed my mind that there'd eventually be a huge pandemic. So that made it to be an interesting view, or an interesting like review for me to hear people kind of compare it to that.
Uh, so what do you and we're still pushing you're still promoting the empty space, but knowing you as I do, I know your pen is busy. What are you writing now?
Yeah, so I'm writing something I'm very excited about. It's a slasher film. It's the first time I've really done the slasher stuff, and it's about a streamer who's getting stalked by someone, and like they know more than they're letting on, and they're kind of like in the chat, and we kind of want to do it almost found footage style, where you see the chat, you see her interacting with them. And so it's been very exciting to kind of talk about, or to kind of like think of how we want to do this and kind of write the script and everything. And so that one I'm super excited for.
She's not one of those ASMR streamers, is she?
No, she's a gaming streamer. Yeah.
Oh, thank God. I was gonna say if he did that, I was gonna like beg you not to. Oh my God! I saw a movie recently that had an ASM influencer, and that is such. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I said it before, but that's so fucking freaky to me. It's like I
Yeah.
don't get it. Maybe I'm old, but I just don't get it. I mean,
Yeah.
could you imagine you and I doing our interview talking like this?
Right.
Could you imagine that for a whole hour and a half, just sitting there talking? I mean, people will be like, "Huh? What?
Right.
What's wrong with my
Right.
what's wrong with my computer?"
Yeah. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah,
What?
people like it. I don't know. And like the whole thing is, there's a lot of stuff like kind of doing research and everything into that world. You find out like the different subgenres and the different people who kind of do stuff like that. And ASMR to me has always been the weirdest, because it's just it like people said this soothes them, and it kind of makes the hairs on my neck stand up. So very much the opposite
Mhm.
reaction for me.
Oh yeah. Well, that and the mukbang, that and the mukbang.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get. I have the entire menu of Subway right here. And you can watch me eat it.
Yeah. And
Um,
what's
how
funny
about
is
if I
that
how about if I turn off my computer and I go read a book while you do that? Uh, but no, the gaming. What have you? Are you a gamer yourself? Are you a big video game guy?
yeah, I'm kind of stuck in my ways, so I still play like a lot of Super Nintendo and everything. But I play a lot of games. I like being challenged, especially now when like one of the games I really liked was the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, because it feels like you're Spider-Man, and so it's always cool to kind of like play those and explore those worlds and stuff.
Yeah. God, I have a PS2 still. I'm a sports guy. I just play football, and baseball. That's the only two. I can't do the other ones. The other ones, I get vertigo. Like the first time I ever tried to play Duke Nukem,
Mhm.
I thought I was going to lose my lunch. I was like, where am I? Because it was like you didn't know if you're looking up or looking
Yeah.
down. I was just like, oh my gosh, it was too freaky for me. Uh, so do you generate ideas when you're playing games? Do you find that too relaxing? And do you ever like stop in the middle of the game and write down your notes? What for an idea, or did you do research for the get for your slasher? Did you do it by playing in different gaming rooms like Twitch, or what's the other one? Discord, I think it is, where they play games.
Yeah, I think it's Twitch, and I think there's a couple. And yeah, so it was a lot of talking to people who did it for a living, trying it out a couple of times myself just to kind of see what the interactions were like. Talking to people who watched it to see what they get out of it, what they really love. And it was a lot of talking to like getting other people's experience. And of course, it was watching a lot of Twitch chat. Like if I was working on something, I would just put Twitch on and kind of like look at Pokimane or one of the most popular ones. And then I would also go and look at people who weren't very popular, who were brand new and who were starting out, just to see the difference between someone who it's a career, someone who it's a hobby, and someone who's just having fun and just kind of wants to play. And you want to get all those experiences and try to give, like I said, I always try to give like a pretty rounded um, viewpoint of everything that's going on.
So what are some of the things you've been surprised at by your I mean, I'm sure you're sitting there going like, I could write this movie so easy because there are a lot of characters out there that I could see doing this shit. Um, Have you ever had anybody rage quit on you before?
Not me. I have had people like one time, and to kind of spoil a little bit of the script I'm working on, some of it was based off of this encounter because I remember one time this guy got so mad and he was like, he just wasn't great at the game. And I don't try to say like I try to be encouraging, and I think that kind of made him more mad because I think he thought I was making fun of him. And so he sent me my address and my address isn't like publicly online, so he had to find it. And to me, that was like pretty like it was my address, and then it just said "see you soon," and so that was terrifying to me. And that's kind of where I got this idea from, because of how how kind of nothing really set him off, and it was just kind of disturbing. And then I had to call. You hear about swatting people, so I called the police and just let them know, like, if anyone calls about 911, like it might not be anything at my house. And then I had to explain to them what swatting was and what was going on, and they were still kind of confused because it's you're kind of like, imagine if you're a police officer and you're like, a Twitch gaming channel, what, like, what are you talking about?
They do get swat. The swatting is a thing. I mean, it still happens.
Yeah,
People will do that, and people actually have been killed from that shit. So
right.
yeah. I just tell somebody who wants my address, I'll just say, here, yeah, you got it. Come get it. If you feel like, you're done breathing, then yeah, come on in. I have a grown cheetah here, and he's not a dog, so you can have fun with
Right.
that. I'll try to help you if he tears out your throat. I can't promise anything, but I'll try.
Right.
Uh, yeah, rage quitters crack me up though. They do. And you know what? I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, man, what a great idea for a movie.
Right.
A rage quitter. It's just like, yeah, I can see that.
Right.
I'm sure anybody who's played a gaming, who's been a gamer, and the other thing is though too is I don't understand why people watch it. I mean, me,
Yeah.
I want to play. You
Yeah.
know, I
Right.
want to play. I don't want to sit there like hours and watch somebody. Okay, I'm going to play a game and watch me. Why am I going to watch you again? I'm not playing the game. I'm not, like, what am I doing that
Yeah.
for? But you're right. There be people there just sitting watching. This is like,
Hmm.
you could be doing so much more right now,
Yeah.
you know, unless you're researching for a slasher movie, of course.
Right.
Um, so where are you going to base how far along in the script are you? Are you along? You got to do more
Um,
research?
No, I've written a couple of drafts. I'm just trying to get it where I really want it. And so just kind of like right now we're still in the screenwriting, but it's kind of the place where all the structure's there. I'm just kind of tweaking things to kind of figure out exactly how. We have like there's a couple of fun things that she's gonna do, and we're still trying to figure out like I kind of want to make the game for the movie. So you see it you see like that's the only place you'll ever see it. And so just kind of playing with those ideas and different kind of characters and different kind of like it's cool because with the slasher you get to kind of make your slasher, and you get to kind of decide, is it going to be like a Freddy slasher, is it going to be Michael Myers, is it going to be Jason? So that's all been fun, and kind of we're right now, if I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a hint as to what the slasher will be wearing in my very screen.
Is it gonna be Ghostface related?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
It's gonna be quite different. But so that's fun to kind of think about, like, oh, what's he gonna have? Think about like, oh, because I really want my favorite kind of slashers are the ones where we have a really cool heroine, but I also want her to kind of get messed up during the film to show like, oh, this is serious, like this is real. And so
right,
um
right.
so it's been a lot of like, thinking about what's going to happen and what's going to happen to her, and then how she's going to kind of overcome it. And like, this is one of the coolest characters that I've written, and so I'm very excited to kind of start on that one, because with the empty space, like we said, Amy's going through a lot, and so she's not exactly someone you want to hang out with, and this is the opposite, and
Right.
someone you want to hang out with, and so you want to be like, no, you want to save her in a way, and so we
No,
definitely,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Just my 2 cents. I think if you gave her like an orange and white cat companion to hang out with, to help her get through just a suggestion,
Right, right.
that could equal a couple more $1 million at the box office. have her with an orange and white cat as her companion, and
Yeah.
and they survive at the end. Just an idea, just popping out there.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
great.
you got any ideas? You got any? Because I think I asked you this before. But do you write with actors in mind for your roles? I mean, are you thinking about who you're gonna have cast in this?
Sometimes, especially at the beginning, like when I'm barely forming the things, it helps to have someone to kind of connect to. And a lot of times, what I start off with is like a folder and it'll have the main characters, and it won't necessarily be an actress. It might end up being an actress, but a lot of times it's just pictures of either actresses or actors, or maybe like clothing, or kind of like maybe a scene, because I use all of that to kind of start building this person. And like sometimes it's one actor the whole way through. Like for the Empty Space, I knew I wanted to work with Joe again, so I kind of wrote it with him in mind. But sometimes it's just a random person, or sometimes it's not anyone. Like it's just kind of a bunch of ideas. And so after once you kind of get through a couple of drafts, then the character kind of breaks free from inspiration and kind of becomes their own thing. And that's when it really gets fun, because you kind of like, that's when you can play with like, oh, well, how would they react to here? And what would they say here? And that's when it starts, the screws start tightening up, so to speak.
Yeah, Joe has that badass look to him. You
Yeah.
know, he has that hero look to him.
Mhm.
He doesn't have, I which I really appreciated, which made his turn a little bit more effective. All of a sudden now he comes back and he's coming back as, as whatever you see him as, and you're going
Mhm.
like, wow, because you're not really expecting that.
Right.
But I saw that. I'm going like, the beginning of the half of the Empty Space where he's sitting there and he's talking down the guy who's, had broke in the house. He just had that really strong presence about him. He's a fine actor.
Yeah.
He really is. He's a fine actor and good range too.
Yeah. Yeah.
For him to be, look, we're gonna have you become the victim of this to, and instead of being, the pleasant goes to the light, or Patrick Swayze from Ghost type thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna have you, turn. You're gonna start representing death to
Yeah.
your girl.
Hmm.
That must be like that must have been such a. That must have been. Did you have to talk to him about that, Andrew? The massive shift in tone for his character, because it is. It's a massive
Yeah,
change.
definitely, and especially the way, like for both Valerie and Joe, it wasn't the easiest shooting schedule, because, like I said, Joe and Valerie, they almost have to play two characters, like what happens before the traumatic event and what happens afterwards, and just the way we filmed it, because in the movie, sometimes we're in Amy's head, and sometimes she's reliving a memory, or sometimes they go back to the same place. There's like a house party where they break where the robber breaks in, and we go back to that house a couple of times. But to film it, we all filmed it over the course of 2 days, and so like there was points where like they had to switch between, like in 20 minutes, switch between how they were portraying the characters. And the best way to do that is to just kind of rehearse with them and practice with them. And like a lot of times Joe would be like, am I, he would refer to himself as the X-Men character, and he'd be like, am I my X-Men character, or am I just normal right now? And that's how he would kind of like switch it in his brain to tell him which one he had to be. Because like you said, like there's certain points where they have to like switch. And especially with Joe, he has to go from being likable to being menacing very quickly, sometimes in the same scene. And so it was definitely like I needed people that I really could trust. And Joe, I had
That,
worked with him.
that's
And
hard.
hello. Yeah,
That
definitely.
that is really hard to do. In fact, I'm trying to wrap my brains like that. Where have I seen that? I think I can only remember one role where I ever saw this, and that was a movie called Colossal.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
did you see that movie?
Yeah, it's cool. I love that movie.
Jason Sudeikis,
Hmm.
toward the end of the movie, where he's just nice and sweet, and
Hmm.
then within a minute, he's just like, "Rah," he just turns on Anne Hathaway, like just like you're just sitting there like as a viewer, just sitting there like, holy shit, because he just went crazy on her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
man, that yeah. See, that takes skill to do that and to do it
Right.
effectively. Good
Yeah.
for you, man. See, you brought out a lot in your cast.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
Um, yeah, for sure. Now you mentioned earlier about doing the Blu-ray. You're gonna get a Blu-ray release. Please tell me that you did a commentary for that.
No, not for this one.
Oh,
We worked with Bayview, but no, not this one.
oh man. Any chance at all you if it runs out? I mean, if is there any chance at all that you can get it? You can go ahead and release it with a commentary later on.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to Bayview. I think they're waiting to see how it is, but I'd love to do a commentary. I mean, especially with this one, there's so much that went into it, so much we did, and
I
so much like that we'd love to expand on. That a commentary would be super fun.
I think so too. I would love to see that. I love yeah, that's a movie that you really want to hear. You really want to hear what you're thinking and what you're seeing, your vision. I really like to get behind that. Um,
Mhm.
do you watch your peers when they do their movies if they have directors commentaries? Do you find yourself listening or watching those as in their movies? Do you ever do that as a fellow director?
Oh yeah, I love like when we were actually making the empty space. I think every day because you know you get off of work and you don't want to like your mind is set, so you just kind of want to put something on to kind of end the day. And so I would switch between I would either watch The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, or John Carpenter did a commentary with Kurt Russell on The Thing, and so I watched that a lot because they give so much insight, especially Carpenter because he's kind of like my idol. I look up to him a lot, especially the way he was always in there in the weeds, so to speak, with the crew and with the actors. And I've always appreciated that about him. And I always kind of wanted to emulate that as well, where everyone can kind of come up to me and talk. And like, if they have an idea, I'd love to hear it. And so I loved hearing John Carpenter talk. And sometimes there's movies that I don't like that much. And then I hear the commentary and I really love the commentary. And so I'll still like, it just gives you a different perspective. And it kind of like, even if you don't like the movie, sometimes it'll be like, oh, that's what they were going for. And I appreciate what they're doing now a lot more. And so, yeah, 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 Al, the Thing commentary. I always talk about when they had to push up, like one of their trucks got stuck in the snow and Carpenter and Kurt Russell are just pushing the tree up because they're both working guys. And so that was like inspired me to be like, oh, I want to be down there kind of pushing the truck as well.
Right, right, right. Uh, yeah, I have to listen to that commentary for sure.
It
I definitely I have not seen the thing in a minute. So Andre saying it's a great film. Yeah, I have not seen that. I haven't seen that in a minute. I just rewatched Maximum Overdrive for the first time like in 20 25 years.
yeah.
I will say this: Emilio Estevez really gave it his all. He was really good in that. He was
Yeah.
really good in that. The rest of the movie, Stephen King on his. Man, I'm glad he never did another movie. That guy. There's two things I got from watching Maximum Overdrive. One, Stephen King really likes AC/DC, and two, Stephen King really likes explosions. That's
Yeah.
really all I got from the movie. And the ending is like one of the most anticlimactic endings
I
ever. It's just like ever.
yeah.
It's it's just like that's it.
Yeah.
That's your ending. Oh Lord, you know.
I
I've
always think
forgotten
it's
it.
like he almost ends it like a book. Yeah, because he ends it like he tells you what happens to all the characters, but you're like, okay, it's
Yeah,
such a book ending.
yeah, and a typical Stephen King ending too is a
Yeah.
shitty ending. uh, all right, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions for our guests? You have any questions for our guest, Andrew Jara? I'll see. The bat says, "Come on, Patrick. The killer lawnmower scene alone is worth three bats." I, okay, maybe the soda can on the coach
I
might
was
have
gonna
been
say
worth
the
a
soda
couple of
can too. I love that.
the soda can was pretty cool. Um, and Pat Hingle being a full on shithead, I'll give him that. Yeah, I was like really surprised. I forgot about that. He was really an asshole in that movie. And Pat Hingle always played the crusty old lovable old man.
Right.
He's always but boy, he was mean in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, I'm thinking of a better film with the same premise, and that was called Legion. That came out a few years
Right.
afterwards with Paul Bettany and Dennis Quaid.
Hmm.
Love that movie. Whatever happened to Scott Stewart? We'll have to figure that out. Did anybody have any questions for our guest before we let him go? What are you going to be doing now? Are you said you're doing some other interviews? How do you like doing press? Are you getting used to it? Are you used to it now?
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting used to it. I think every time. Hopefully, this didn't come off too painful. But yeah, it's always fun. It's fun to see what people, because you can read reviews, you can hear people, but like we said, we were having a conversation. We're able to talk about it in real time, and so that's always fun to be able to do. So it's a great time to be able to talk to people, especially like this where we're live.
I know live is live. There's no net.
Mm-hmm.
There's no net. Actually have someone ask me the other day, another interview says, can you edit something out? And I'm going like, oh my God, I've never had to edit anything out. I don't even know how to do it. So
Right.
I have to figure out how to do it. And I'm like, and I'm holding my breath because I'm waiting for her to come back and tell me, have you done it yet? And I'm going like, no, I'm going to get there.
Right.
But that's the thing about live interviews. It's like, you just never know what you're going to get. Greetings. Oh, all right, man. We got a latecomer. We got latecomers coming in. There's our good friend, Desert Adventures in Arizona, rolling in. Andre still with us. Thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah.
and of course, Al Ricard, the famous bat, is here. But I'm gonna let you go for
Cool.
sure. Thank you for so much for coming in. This has been awesome. Oh no, I still have more questions, but 90 minutes is up, and I promise I'll let you get out. And I'm excited for it. We're gonna stay in touch.
Yeah, of
When
course.
you do your slasher film, we definitely want to be a part of that. We would,
Definitely.
when you start rolling in on that, let us know. I'll put this out in the group, and you too promote your movie in our group if you want to. You're free to
Sure.
do that. Let's see. Oh yes, thank you so much, Betty. Um, tomorrow afternoon, I have to let me tell the calendar real quick. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be on at 2 p.m. We have a change in time. It's 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. We'll be talking with actress Lydia Helen. She will be here at 2 p.m. And then Thursday, we have two shows. We have two shows on Thursday. We will be talking with screenwriter director Rick Langan, actor Alex Butler, and actress Kelly Goody Price will be here with us at 2 p.m. And we'll be talking about the short film The Wait. On Thursday night at 8 o'clock, our usual time, we'll be talking with film director, screenwriter, producer Asif Akbar, whose new movie from Lionsgate, Mojave Diamonds, is out, and we will be talking about that, along with working with Mickey Rourke and Michael J. White. And that will be all this week here on 8 Questions With. Thank you to the chat for coming out and hanging out with us. I
Thank
hope to
you.
see you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. Andrew, stay right where you're at. And to the chat, I'll say thank you for coming out, and we will see you tomorrow afternoon. Peace and have a great night.
Thank you, guys.